Hello friends and welcome back. Let's get started with our Today in History. Today in History, April 9th, 1959, the National Aeronautics and Space Administration, NASA, introduces America's first astronauts to the press. Scott Carpenter, L. Gordon Cooper Jr., John H. Glenn Jr., Virgil Gus Grissom, Walter Schirra Jr., Alan Shepard Jr., and Donald Slayton. The 7 men, all military test pilots, were carefully selected from a group of 32 candidates to take part in Project Mercury, America's first manned space program. NASA planned to begin manned orbital flights in 1961. Right. So we have not yet gotten to speak about NASA and America's space exploration in class yet. That's going to be something that we will speak about when we get into our Cold War unit, which is going to happen after this. But basically, during the time of the Cold War, the United States was in this deep-rooted competition with the Soviet Union in order to see who could be the best, right? Which was going to be the strongest nation, who was going to have the best military, who would be most advanced in terms of technology and things of that nature. And one of the main areas of focus was on space exploration, right? To see which country could be more successful, right? And that is what we know as the space race, right? That competition there. So the introduction of the first group of astronauts is going to be a huge deal, right? And then the talk of eventually putting men into space in 1961. Okay. Unfortunately, the Soviet Union does beat us to space. In 1961, a man by the name of Yuri Gagarin becomes the first human to successfully be launched into space and orbit the Earth. He orbited it one time. The United States follows suit pretty soon after. Alan Shepard, who is right here in the picture, becomes the first American to be launched into space, which is pretty cool. He does not orbit the Earth. He just goes up and then comes back down. And then not too long after, John Glenn, who is right here in the front, becomes the first American to orbit the Earth, and he does so 3 times, his 3 rotations around the Earth. So that's pretty cool that those 2 men are so important in terms of American space exploration. Right, so it's pretty cool. So just to piggyback on this, your question of the day is, who was the first American in space? Okay. All right. Let's get into your work. Right, so yesterday you guys read about Martin Luther King Jr. and Malcolm X, and about the different approaches that each of them had in terms of how they were going to go about getting equal rights for African Americans, right? How were they getting their message out there, and what did they believe? Right? And hopefully you saw that one man steered more towards a violent or aggressive approach, and the other sought to achieve equality through more non-violent means, right? So you had to go through each of those 4 sources. Just give me a summary of what's the information being presented here to you, and then what type of protest are they talking about, violent or non-violent, and do you think it would be effective, yes or no? Okay. So what you have here now is your assignment that's going to be for this entire week. Because this week should have been what was going to be spring break, basically the instruction is that we're going to take it a little easy on you guys, right? We're going to honor the fact that maybe some of you are celebrating Easter or Passover or things of that nature. So this week is going to be a little different in that I'm not going to be pushing out lessons to you every single day, right? This is the assignment that you will have, and it will be due a week from today, which is Thursday. All right. So let's just go through this so I can explain it, and you guys have an idea of what you need to do. So you are going to create civil rights event posters. So some background. It says the civil rights movement was a push to gain equal rights for African For American citizens of color, between 1954 and 1968, many events happened that had a large impact on the civil rights movement. Below is a list of the events that occurred during this time. Right? This is just 8 of them that we threw together that we thought were particularly important that you guys might be interested in. Right, so you have Brown versus the Board of Education, Montgomery bus boycott, the Little Rock Nine, Greensboro sit-ins, which you guys all watched a video on, the Civil Rights Acts of 1960, 1964, and 1968, freedom rides, the Selma, Alabama marches, and the March on Washington, which culminates in the I Have a Dream speech. So what you need to do is you need to pick 2 of the events from the list above. All right, let me make myself clear. 2 of them. Right? And you will design a poster for each event. So that means you are creating 2 posters, 1 for each event, 2 in all. Right? Be sure to include both primary and secondary sources. Right? So what is the easiest way to include primary sources in that is to include pictures. Right? The great thing about the civil rights movement is the use of the media and how prevalent that was. So there are tons and tons and tons and tons of primary sources available to you. So use that to your advantage. Right? And your poster must be done neatly, have accurate information, contain little dead space, meaning there shouldn't be just like a lot of white and empty space, right? I'm going to go through what you should include, and you're going to see that there's a good amount of things that need to be included in this project, so use the space fully, all right? And include all required information. Right, so what is the required information? Here you go. All right, so you should have several bullet points on your poster. It doesn't need to literally be in a line of bullet points. Right? You can put them all around, make it appealing, make it inventive and creative, but just they don't have to be like full sentences, right? You can just bullet this information. Right? When did your event take place? Right? Give me specifics. Month, day, year. Don't just like give me a generalized time. You're going to find specific times for all of these things. Some of them may be like the freedom rides take place over a span of time, so that's fine. Give me like a start date at least, all right? When was the first freedom ride? All right. Where did your event happen? Again, if it happened in multiple places around the United States, say that. All right. And if you have a specific town or city, tell me that. Don't just tell me, like in Alabama. What city in Alabama? What town in Alabama? Something like that, right? Important people in your event. Right? Name, I would say probably at least 2 people for each one. If you only have 1, it is what it is. The purpose of your event, right? What are they trying to achieve here? What was the goal? Right? And don't just tell me equal rights for African Americans. Yeah. Duh. Each one has a specific mission. They're trying to break a barrier in a specific area of society or a specific law, something that they're trying to change, right? And the result of your event, right? What is the outcome? Right, that is all bulleted information. Next, you have written and complete sentences, a summary of your event in sentences. Why did your event happen? Right? What are the circumstances? What is the background leading up to this? Right? Things don't just all of a sudden a protest takes place, right? Or an important event takes place. No, there has to be some sort of tension building leading up to this. Tell me about it. Give me some historical context. Put it in context for me. Okay? What occurred during this event? What happens? What goes on? Is anybody hurt? Are there any riots? Is there any backlash? What is it? Tell me. Give me details. And what was the lasting impact of the event on the civil rights movement? Right? Did it help advance the civil rights movement forward? Did it cause any sort of harm? Right? Did it spark other people to start protesting? Give me some information there. Right? And then you need to have images on your poster. Memorable image of your event. Again, there are literally hundreds of photos out there from the civil rights movement, and those 8 events that you have are iconic. So they are going to be, right, the easiest to find primary sources for. All right, image of at least 1 person involved in the event. Again, pretty easy, pretty straightforward, right? And then make sure that you are providing me with some sort of caption or context in terms of what is this picture showing me. Don't just throw in a picture just because, right? What am I looking at? How does this relate to the event, right? And then an image representing the civil rights movement, right? So it could be an image from the event, it could be a newspaper headline, it could be whatever, maybe you find like an illustration or a drawing that represents the civil rights movement. That's really up to your interpretation on that one. All right, and then down here I have grading, just a breakdown of how I'm going to be scoring you guys on this. All right, so 5 bullet points. They're worth 2 points each. As long as you have them, you're going to get credit for them. All right, summary, again, how many things were listed here? All right, 1, 2, 3, 3 of them. All right, so make sure that they're included, right, and you answer the question fully. Images, all right, you need to have a memorable image of the event, an image of at least one person, and then an image that represents the civil rights movement. So those are 3 images that you must have. And then your neatness and effort. Right. Obviously this will all be done digitally on the computer, right? So that's pretty easy for you guys. And what I'd like you to do is, because this is already a Google Doc and I'm going to be pushing out a copy of this to each one of you, just put them below here, right? If you go in and you hit enter, it'll bring you to a new page, right? So just attach your 2 posters here, right? They should be full, take up the full page, okay? Yes, in color. Right, try and switch up ink colors, use word art, be as creative as you can, right? You do have an entire week to do these 2 posters, so I want to see that you're actually putting in a bit of time here. If you guys have any questions, right, you can always feel free to reach out to me. I'll kind of like put out the feelers and see if you guys need me to do more than just those 2 sessions of office hours. If you feel like you're having a hard time with this, you need to ask me more questions, things like that. But I will have office hours today from 10 to 11, and I will obviously send out a reminder about that just so you guys are aware of it. But I think that should be everything, and just make sure that you answer that question of the day in the survey, because this project is being pushed out for a full week. This will be the only video that I do until like next Thursday when I push out something different to you. All right, so you guys may not see me for a little bit. I may try to do question of the day still though, just like random questions that I can ask you guys, just so there's still some sort of communication between us if I'm not going to be pushing out videos. All right, so that should be everything. I hope you guys, if you're celebrating Passover, are having a great Passover. If you're celebrating Easter, I hope you have the best Easter, and that the Easter Bunny brings you all the candy and treats that you want. And I hope you guys have a great day, right? And of course, as always, stay safe and make good choices. Bye, guys.